Okay, let's call to order this meeting of the Newbury HR Board Classification Subcommittee. Attending the meeting are
Tracy Blaze, Town Administrator.
Mark Kleckman.
John Ferrara. Anthony Antico.
Lynn Peabody.
Thank you all. We have a quorum. We believe that Chief Fisher will be joining us momentarily, but given that this is a meeting called for 4, let's get it kicked off. We are here for the purposes of reclassifying the treasurer-collector position. I'm assuming everyone's had an opportunity to read through the job description and formulate any thoughts, questions, or observations they may have. Tracy, thank you as always for joining us as the hiring manager. Hi, Chief.
Sorry I'm late.
It's all right. We'll give you a second to get squared away here.
You don't look like your usual.
No.
Chief Fisher has joined us for the purposes of the video here. And I was just about to ask Tracy, as the hiring manager, to give us the 2-minute tour. Bear in mind, this is a position that was last rated in 2012. And I think it's fair to say that much has happened with the role since then in terms of additional responsibilities. And I thought, as always, we'd like the hiring manager just to give us the 2-minute tour while we're here and maybe highlight some of the changes in the roles so that we can accurately reclassify. So with that in mind, Tracy?
Sure thing. So thank you, and first I wanted to mention that, I know Diane usually does this, so if I misstep here at all, let me know. I'll try to live up to her expectations, but
it takes a village.
It does indeed. So you're right, it hasn't been reclassified in many, many years, and the role has evolved pretty significantly since its last review. What was strictly a treasurer-collector position, basically, reconciling bank accounts, collecting taxes, and just all the tasks that go along with that, has evolved more. In particular, it takes on a much stronger HR role. HR has become much more significant in Newbury. We really never had anything that would look like an HR position or an HR department. It was each manager kind of took on a little piece of that role themselves. Obviously, some of you being in that field, it's changed significantly over the years. So we've tried to bring some expertise in-house, and we've done that with training, education, and both Diane and I have taken on that role, and she has been my partner, really since the beginning. Now, that treasury function, because payroll rests in that office, it kind of goes hand in hand with a lot of the benefits administration, providing benefits counseling, whether it's for people who are retiring or onboarding or leaving for reasons that aren't happy reasons. There are so many things that we have to go over with people in terms of health insurances, benefits, unemployment benefits, the retirement system, how that works. So that probably has become the single biggest additional component to that function. But in addition to that, we've also kind of grown up a little bit. So we do things now that we never used to do in the past, things like cash flow projections. That wasn't something that happened in Newbury. We've implemented, we've established policies relevant to investments, so the investments that the treasurer can make. We didn't really have any guidelines. Now we've established policies relative to OPEB, the way we're going to invest our post-employment benefits that employees are eligible for. So I think with any of us, all of our jobs, requirements change, laws change, but that particular function has taken on a lot of additional, highly responsible administrative tasks. So it is addressed in some of the highlights as we go through the job description. It talks about, I think the third bullet down talks about cash flows, and then talks about interactions with departments too. I will tell you, back in 2011, 2010, it was a different operation. Everyone was kind of an island, so each departmental function would perform their tasks in kind of silo, for sure. And it's much different now and it's so much better with these interactions. So now the accountant and the treasurer are meeting frequently to reconcile balances. The treasurer, or the tax collector piece, and the assessor work constantly. He bills it, she collects it. They work in concert. I know, Chief, you're down there all the time.
We do with grants. So when I have, let's say I have a grant that covers payroll issues, and that's coming out of a certain like expense line item, there's a mirrored revenue line item that when I submit for reimbursement for particular grants, it comes in through that. That goes through that department as well. So I need to confirm. So it's a three-way communication between the accountant, the treasurer, and myself for each grant that I have to make sure the money that I spent out is being reimbursed properly into the proper account. So it's a three-way constant communication for each and every individual grant that I run that revolves around reimbursement.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's new to Newbury as well. So town's investments are on here under the treasurer collector duties and responsibilities. Also on the second page, serving as the custodian for tax title accounts for closure proceedings. Again, 10 years ago, we had a very significant, different picture here in terms of uncollectible balances. Now our collection rates are around a little over 99%. But there's a lot of work, a lot of policy development that went into those things that just didn't happen. They weren't tasks that were performed in the past. And also, well, the last bullet talks about policies. So the level of responsibility has definitely changed, just as an overview.
I know that meeting with Diane from time to time, I know she's talking about, COBRA issues, other insurance issues, having to deal with Maya on a regular basis, things that my guess is probably weren't happening 8 or 10 years ago. So
They were not.
So the role has grown considerably.
And I think societally too, HR issues have become a higher liability or litigation issue for private businesses and public sector. I think is more than it has been ever before.
No question.
Agreed.
Thank you, Tracy.
Yep.
All right, before we kick off here, any upfront questions? If not, we'll get right to the first factor. Clarifications needed? No? Okay. As always, Tracy, allow us to ask the occasional question from the board to get things clarified, or just make sure we dig in a little bit to understand. A couple of things that we always talk about at the beginning. We always are careful here when rating these positions to stay away from what we call outliers. Those being, the one-offs where somebody may have a responsibility once or twice a year to do something, whether it's, supervise additional staff or be involved in some activity that isn't typical, regular, normal activity, and we try to keep those away from the equation, thinking that it would not be fair to the system to rate it as if it happened all the time. The other thing we do at the very end is look at things like the recruiting process. What might the town of Newbury look at if we have to replace this individual? How readily available is the candidate pool? Is the position rated a 16 or a 17 or an 18 or an 18.1 or 2 or 3, depending on a number of factors, including what the likelihood is of being able to find somebody to fit the bill here, or do you have to go to the ends of the earth to identify folks? So those are some of the things we look at during the process. Fair?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, first factor, complexity. This factor deals with the tasks performed, the judgment necessary to perform those tasks, and make decisions along with problem solving that are required by the position. Refers to the use of knowledge and experience in making these decisions. A 1 would be a highly repetitive role where there are very few simple tasks. Decisions are really required, limited to tasks performed. A 2 would be very routine work consisting of a wide variety of tasks along with standard procedures. There may be the occasional exception, and this person might make a recommendation that affects tasks or could change outcomes. A 3 is a somewhat complex role where somebody would be assigned projects that require some analysis and planning. Exceptions are analyzed and resolved by changes to standard procedures and techniques. A 4 would be a complex role that may require modification of existing procedures or the development of new methods. Analysis and planning are integral parts of the position. Exceptions require in-depth analysis and are resolved by changes to administrative and technical procedures. A 5 would be a highly diversified and complex role. The work would involve planning, analysis, and coordination of other departments or other activities. This individual would make decisions where in some cases established policies are inadequate and might recommend changes to established policy. A 6 is a policy formulation role where this person would be solely responsible or primarily responsible for broad policies and long-term programs, makes decisions and service guides or directives for the town. Tracy, your thoughts here?
So, this one I put in as a 5. It's constant planning, analysis, interrelated activities. That's kind of what I was talking about, how you're functioning, you're meeting with assessors, accountants, police chiefs, town administrators on a constant basis. So I thought that one was kind of easy to read for me.
Thoughts, questions?
I agree with the 5.
I agree with 5. I think you clarified for me the policy piece, because that was my question. Is she kind of just approving policy? Is it like you and her coming up with policy, or now that the policy is in place, it's just her job to kind of make sure policy is followed? So I would have had it, I had it between a 5 or a 5.5, depending on what the policy role was.
John, Tony, any thoughts?
Yeah, the ability to motivate, analyze, strong knowledge. I mean, that's, you're right. You've got a lot of facets to be on top of daily, weekly, and then all of the annual complexities.
And there has certainly been a lot of, if not policy establishment by this individual, there certainly has been a lot of requirement to make sure that new policies get put in place, that they're implemented appropriately, especially as it relates to, crossing over various departmental lines. So. Okay, if there are no other thoughts, let's take a vote. Why don't we start at that end of the table?
I'll say 5.
5.
5.
5.
5 it is. Next factor is education. Straightforward. A 1 is a junior high school up to grade 11. A 2 is a high school graduate. A 3 is formal training beyond high school diploma, but not necessarily a bachelor's level or college degree. A 4 is completion of a 2-year post-secondary or college degree, or perhaps technical training of similar nature. A 5 is a bachelor's level degree, and a 6 is advanced graduate studies. I believe the job description describes it as a bachelor's level degree. And Tracy, you say that's a prerequisite as opposed to just a preference, is that correct?
It's we require it.
Okay. If that's the case, that would bring it in as a 5, I believe?
Easy 5.
5?
Easy 5.
Easy 5.
Yep.
All right, let's take an official vote on that. If you'd like to kick us off, Lynn?
5.
Tony?
5.
5.
5?
5.
5 it is. Thank you all. Next factor is experience. Considers the time required to develop the necessary skills and expertise to perform the job duties and responsibilities. How much time does it require to learn the essential techniques and skills required to perform the job effectively? Experience is defined as the length of time required to acquire the minimum skills. When assessing the required amount of experience, consider the complexity of the issues faced and the amount of judgment exercised. Generally, the more judgment exercised, the more experience required. The job description, I believe, has it as a minimum of 5 years
Yes.
of progressive, responsible municipal finance experience, the preference being 3 to 5 years in a treasurer-collector's role. But in terms of the overall experience, you have it as a 5 years.
5 years, which was a 4.
That would bring it in as a 4.
Right.
A 4 rating is 4 to 6 years of relevant experience. Questions? Thoughts? Let's vote. Tony?
It's a solid, at least a solid 4.
John?
I think as well.
I have it as a 4.
4. 4.
4 it is. Thank you. Next factor, independent action or initiative. Independent action refers to the initiative required to perform the duties and responsibilities of the job effectively. This factor also considers the creativity and original thought required by the job and the amount of direction and control received from supervisor or by standard practices and precedents. Before we get into this, I just had a quick question based on the job description, because I was a little bit unclear, I was fuzzy on it. It says the position reports to the town administrator / assistant finance director.
So the way our operation is set up, I'm the finance director. The town accountant is the town accountant assistant finance director.
Okay.
So the chain of command goes from the treasurer collector up to the accountant assistant finance director up to me.
Okay. So day to day, week to week, this role,
The reporting would be to the accountant assistant finance director position.
and then to you.
And then to-
Okay. Okay. The reason I ask is because later on in the job description, the third bullet item, it says develops and implements the town's cash flow plan in coordination with the town accountant / finance director. Should that be assistant
Yes,
finance
it
director?
should.
All right, that's what I was confused, that's what I thought.
Which one could?
Third bullet item here, I think.
Oh, yes.
So if you
Okay.
could just, when you have a
Yep,
change, change
will
that
do.
to assistant finance director, otherwise it didn't make sense.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions before we kick off the discussion?
No, good grab.
Okay, a 1 is an individual who works under close supervision, receive detailed instructions and procedures either verbally or in writing. There is no latitude to make changes in work, refers all but the most routine questions and problems to the supervisor. A 2, this individual works under less frequent supervision. Work is defined by standard practices and established procedures. This individual prioritizes tasks and decides if additional information is required. This individual might occasionally make decisions on the setup of work on his or her own, but refers all significant problems or concerns to the supervisor. A 3, works under occasional supervision, proceeds on his or her own when a majority of the duties are defined, uses initiative and ingenuity to identify potential problems and conducts research to determine a viable solution. A 4, works within general direction and guidance, plans and carries out plans and activities to obtain definite objectives, applies policies or standards widely accepted within the occupation of the profession. The assignment may involve creative work and/or innovation. A 5, this individual will work independently on general assignments, plan and carry out broad assignments of a major department, often involving other related activities. This individual would also take action without reference to supervisors except when policy changes are required, major investments are involved, or long-term programs are affected. And a 6, this person would work very independently in a wide range of administrative and policy-making activities, would plan and carry out major programs and plans for the entire town. Employees' work is checked only through consultation and agreement with others. Typically does not receive direction on a regular basis. Tracy, what's the typical?
So I kept going back and forth between 4 and 5, and I landed on a 4.5.
We can do that if it works out that way. We've split the votes before.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the first time.
Okay.
Why is that?
Well, because, everything in number 4, clearly, it meets
Yeah.
all that criteria. In number 5 as well, except action generally isn't taken without some reference to superiors, in particular, policy changes and those types of things. So there's a lot of consultation involved in that position. It's not completely independent when it comes to those things. So that's why I kind of put it right in the middle there.
Thank you. Thoughts? Questions?
I had the same, I had a 4.5 as well.
I did too.
4.5.
It speaks to less supervision and more consultation. And that brings it to 4.5. And I mean, you're dealing with 1, 2, 3, 4 departments intimately all the time, including your house. And then all of the individual acts she has to take, or he has to take, and the element goes forward. 4.5.
Other thoughts before we vote? All right, let's take the official vote. John?
4.5.
4.5.
4.5.
4.5.
4.5.
Thank you. We are a very agreeable bunch here today. Unusual. I shouldn't say unusual.
Say that at the end, not halfway through.
Be nice.
Okay. All right. Enough of that. Consequence of errors. This factor assesses the likelihood and the probable effect of errors on the job, and it considers things like who is affected. Is it a unit within the department? Is it an entire department? Is it the town, or could it include the public? The extent of losses to the town, which could result from inappropriate decisions or judgments. A normal rather than an extreme error, however, the possibility of serious consequences, and how easily is the error corrected. A 1, errors are readily detected, virtually no cost or impact, at best they're minimal. Errors are easily corrected and may cause a loss of credibility just to the individual. A 2, errors are probably detected by others within the work area. Errors may result in brief delays in services or completion of tasks. It could be slight loss of credibility to the unit or the department. The cost may be somewhat noticeable as materials are replaced or equipment. That doesn't relate to this position, so that's fine. A 3, errors affect the work of others but are generally not damaging to the town. Errors are detected and corrected before they become serious. Errors could cause loss of significant amount of time correcting the errors, or could delay succeeding or related operations such as the validity of records, data, reports, etc. Errors may have an adverse impact on the public and/or public relations. A 4, errors cause substantial identifiable losses. Losses to the town beyond damage and waste as the result of inadequate planning. May cause substantial delays in services and programs. Identifiable deterioration in public and employee relations. Errors may result in physical injury resulting in lost time. A 5, errors cause serious short-term breakdowns. They may cause serious delays in services with uncoordinated efforts or shortage of parts, components, not related here. May cause commitment or withholding of funds, inadequate analysis, or poor planning prior to a major decision. A 6, errors may cause long-term negative consequences to the town, may cause terminal losses with little opportunity to correct the error once made, except over a long period of time at a great cost. It may cause major loss of department or town prestige because the results became public. It may cause fatal or incapacitating injury. I don't think we have to worry about that for this one. Tracy?
I really struggle with this one because the listings, like some of the things you said in number 6 are impactful. You know, it can create upset, it can have political consequences if, you know, we go to borrow and we borrow the wrong amount of a bond, if we're not paying real careful attention, if you go to collect taxes and you make a significant mistake on the billing, which happened, I guess, once here years and years and years ago, so the bills all went out wrong. That, you know, things like that, there are some significant consequences, but then there are other items listed that just don't make sense for this position. So I ended up landing on a 4, but I'm not really
Me too.
confident in that.
I guess I should hold my thoughts until we go around the room, but.
Yeah, because some of the other ones just don't make sense for this particular position. So I'm not sure how to.
There's no question that the degree to which this individual is responsible for public outreach, or at least public communication, and the likelihood of that deteriorating as a result of judgmental errors in real estate taxes and you know, other similar kinds of things that are very personal to folks.
Foreclosures
Right.
and things, yeah.
And also when you consider the human resources element that we've been discussing here, COBRA benefits and you know, other you know, payroll issues, there's a lot of meat on this bone. The question is, to what degree does it influence the town's credibility and reputation, the departmental reputation? Yeah.
So when I was thinking about it, for a lot of them, right, there's a partnership. So payroll issues, like you said, for example, there's a partnership. I have a big payroll with different accounts, right? There's a partnership between her and I where if she thinks I've made a mistake, she calls and says, hey, did you do this? And I say, no, because that one's a contract or this one isn't. So there's a discussion before it goes out. But I agree with you with the taxes and the foreclosures. I ended up with a 4.5 saying most of it is 4, but the ones that are in the 6 are big.
Serious.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I bumped it up the half, because of the things that don't fall in between the 4 and the 6 don't fall, but things that I know, you know what I mean, that do fall in the 6, if there's a mistake,
Right.
it's a big deal.
Major.
And it's on her, you know what I mean, or him, or whoever the position is. But, so that, I gave it a half a point for those 6 pieces.
Can I just clarify, we talked about chain of command earlier, or chart, I should say. What's the likelihood that an error in judgment or in mathematics, you know, in any of these responsibilities, is then caught by either the town accountant or you in advance of it becoming an issue?
We have a lot of checks and balances. Many things like the real estate tax bills. I mean, we had the assessor's eyes on it, we had the collector's eyes on it.
So chances are something gets caught before it gets...
Absolutely,
Okay.
but then, you know, we can do all those reconciliations, but then you've got to enter it and send it.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
you could, it could happen. I'd like to say it never will, but you know, it could happen.
I was thinking more 4, but I understand the...
But if you take my example with payroll, if you have someone in that position who isn't asking the question back to the department head before they hit submit,
Right.
then I've got a big problem when someone comes to me and says their check is wrong and now we need to reconcile and all, you know, and all of the work that kind of goes into that independent thinking, right? And that, is this mine or is this ours kind of mindset, you know what I mean, where it takes the judgment to know to pick up the phone and call the person who just gave you the payroll to say,
Point well taken.
is this weird?
I don't know, I still think of 4. I think that tax collection and HR are pretty siloed. Tracy, your position is overarching, and there are checks and balances, and there's a lot of integration and teamwork, partnerships, things like that, but I am holding with a 4. I certainly can be swayed to a 4.5, but I think that HR and tax collection is pretty siloed. And you can fix payroll errors, pretty easily. If it's downstream, if it's gone on for a year and you have to recoup, you can still fix it. Whereas that probably will not have a big negative impact or implications for the reputation of the town or the town's finances. You said, you gave an example as
Issuing debt,
bonds.
Foreclosures.
Yeah, and so some of those things might go through and it'd take some work to get it corrected.
Fix it.
But still, it's in this bucket, right? Like if you make a mistake, chances are there's going to be some impact on our reputation.
Right.
Because of the financial implications or the personnel implications, things like that.
Yeah.
I think that any one of these, you look at a 1.0 or 2.0 or whatever, you can come up with scenarios where you see, oh my God, she said what, or she did what. You're not going to stop there. Because this is what would some of these errors cause down the line. So for me, stopping at a 4, it really doesn't make sense because she has the ability to go forward with these portions of the job. And I think it does require a little more, rather than saying, oh, we goofed. So, let's create the situation where we can resolve it, or say, no, this is our responsibility.
So what would you give it?
I would give it probably a solid 5.
Okay. Maybe I underestimate my work, right, in HR. I can fix that.
I understand Tony's point.
I think the HR piece, when I think the 0.5, I think the other stuff.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like I said, the putting taxes out, the foreclosures, the communication with all of that stuff that kind of goes with it. That's really the side that my mind was on with those, with the 0.5, was that kind of other stuff that goes with the finance piece in, is it one-offs or does it happen more than a one-off or, a little more than a one-off? That's kind of where my head was. But when it happens.
But she's working, or the position is working in conjunction with finance.
Yes.
And so finance has the real responsibility, I would think, on those situations.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
I'm also thinking that this, given the breadth of responsibilities in this role, this is a position that touches virtually every facet of the community, the public, the administration.
It stops on 12 bullets on these 3 pages. Custodial aspect and all of the precision in those 12 bullets that's required. If there's not an enormous attention to detail and a rigorous capability to do that level of peculiarly difficult work, it could be a landslide if one thing happens after another. So it's a precision position with a lot of custodial requirement. I think there's just too many refined tasks, and I circled 12 bullets on 2 pages where precision is key, and this precision and mistakes are considerably close companion.
Right. But again, the question here is to what degree do those mistakes impact the town, the department, the public,
it can create
employee population?
It can create a whole lot of discomfort, especially in benefits administration aspect. Mistakes made there could require long periods of correction
And create a whole lot of litigation
and
that you
litigation.
don't want.
Yeah,
Okay, but who administers the benefits?
Treasurer collector.
So who is the benefits administrator? Who is the plan administrator? Like, is it, United Healthcare? Is it Harvard Pilgrim? Is
We have HMO Blue New England product.
Okay, and
Through
so,
Maya.
okay, and so that's the plan, and then local benefits administration is this position.
Yes.
So, so if I have a question about my appointment with my PCP, it is going to be covered, who do I ask?
You would call Maya.
Okay.
Yeah. You would call Maya.
Okay.
Okay, let's go around the table and vote on it. I think this is one where we may have some.
This is where you jinxed us, Mr. Glenn. This is where you jinxed us, Mr.
That's
Glenn.
right, Mr. Glenn spoke too soon.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bump mine up from a 4 to a 4.5. I think that's, the more I think of it, I think Tony made good points, and I think I was a little bit low, so I'm gonna say 4.5.
I'm staying with the 4.5.
I can do a 4.5.
I would agree with that.
4.5, okay. Good discussion, thank you
Good
all.
discussion.
Next factor, contacts, refers to the importance to the organization of the working relationships required of the position. The contacts can be internal or external to the organization. They may take various forms, face-to-face, phone, public appearances, media. This factor also assesses who these contacts are, the purposes of the contacts, the importance to the town, residents, elected officials, member of town boards, appointees, co-workers, etc. Interaction may cover a variety of purposes and complexity, advising, coaching, disciplinary actions. Common courtesies expected at all levels, of course. One, very routine, within the immediate area, no contacts beyond office mates, if you will. Two, routine with occasional discussions outside the immediate area, frequently provides routine information to more than one source, may have occasional contact with the public, officials, board members, etc. Three, frequent and important beyond immediate associates. Appropriate tact to discuss problems, act as a resource person, make recommendations, clarify policies. May have limited responsibility for securing cooperation. Regular contact with public, town officials, board members, etc. Some responsibility to persuade, convince, and secure cooperation. Four, frequent and important for the purposes of clarifying town procedures and resolving issues, requires the use of interpersonal skill to clarify issues and to communicate clearly, requires in-depth professional knowledge of the subject being discussed. Five, frequent and important, often around a topic of deep personal concern for an individual stakeholder, a tax abatement, compliance with state and federal regulations, etc. Requires advanced communication skills, presentation skills, resolution resulting in the stakeholder feeling respected and heard, even if the ultimate decision goes against the stakeholder's personal interest. Six, contacts are vital to the viability of the town. The manner and handling of matters that are important to a wide variety and often unaligned group of stakeholders represents a major consideration in the performance of the duties. Contacts require constant maintenance and development to avoid being blindsided by important financial and reputational decisions. Tracy?
I gave that one a 5.5.
Okay.
Again,
Talk about
the
that.
nature of benefits administration, tax payments, foreclosures. I will tell you that fewer and fewer people are actually making the physical trip into town hall to interact, to conduct their transactions. A lot of them are being done online now, but those people who do, sometimes they're not always coming in to tell us what a great job we're doing, especially if you're coming in with tax bills with interest on them, late payments, things that were maybe lost in the mail. And that office is one of the offices that feels a lot of, a lot of angry interactions, people are upset about something. And even as it noted here, sometimes they don't leave with necessarily the answer or the response that they wanted, but I do feel very strongly that they always leave getting all the facts, all the information they need, and with some sort of a resolution to their issues. So when it talks about tact and those types of things, this is a position that needs a significant amount of tact. And the first bullet of number 6, for sure. The second bullet, not so much, but everything under number 5
Thank you, Tracy.
is checked off.
Questions, thoughts? Just to give you some perspective, I'm looking at other positions in town based upon the classification grid. Folks in town that are above a 5, could either be a 5.5 or a 6 in town. Chief of police, fire chief, town administrator, principal assessor, director of public health, director of inspectional services, director of the COA. Those are all the folks that are a 5.5 or a 6. And as I go down this list, I see 4 or 5 of those roles that in my mind are comparable to this in terms of the degree to which proper communication and contact with those folks is vital to the role and to the town. When comparing it to, director of public health, director of inspectional services, director of the COA, this feels consistent to me.
And I had it as a 5.5 as well, and one of the things that kind of stood out to me, having a working relationship with the person in this role, and I think would be important if that person were ever replaced, she's incredibly confidential, even with town employees, about many aspects of her own job that I think translates when dealing with contacts, and I think it's very important that when those people who are leaving dissatisfied with their honest answer or whatever, knowing, feeling, or just the people behind the scenes knowing that they're leaving with dignity, no matter how difficult that interaction between them was, is enough alone for me to give it the 0.5, because they work in a very close, tight space down there, and I'm gonna tell you, that office does a great job with keeping their business in such a small place, and I think, to me, that credit goes under this category of privacy. Like, if I had to deal with a financial issue that was difficult, that office is somebody that I personally would feel comfortable going to, knowing that it's between me and the people who have to deal with it on a town level.
That door gets closed probably more than any other door in this town hall.
It does indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
But,
good point.
like, just even dealing with the difficult people, it's bzzz, and back to work. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And I think that's, if that weren't the case, this would take a huge hit.
Point back, thank you.
Yeah.
Other thoughts?
I think you have to be satisfied that if you work with personnel in the town, that there's at least some implied guarantee that you're not gonna find your name in the Newburyport Daily News the following morning, things like that. It's true. Dealing with people is critically important.
And this, as we talked about earlier, this role has direct connection to as broad a range of contacts that probably any in the entire town, maybe with the exception of the police chief, or, I can't think of other roles where, somebody touches as many members of this community as this role. So, okay, if there are no other thoughts, let's vote. We're back to chief, the vote first.
I have a 5.5 on that.
I can support a 5.5.
5.5.
As well.
5.5 it is. Thank you all. Again, great conversation. Supervision, and we talk about supervision in two ways here. There are two different factors. One is the character of the supervision. What is the nature of the supervisory responsibilities? And also the scope, which we'll get to next, which is how many employees are supervised. Character refers to, or considers the degree and nature of the position's supervisory responsibilities. If there are no supervisory responsibilities, no points are awarded. In terms of character, one, this is a lead position, may allocate the work of others, may be responsible for attendance records. Sorry, this is one or two. I'm a little bit confused here. I haven't looked at this for a bit. Let's switch to a 3. Limited supervision. Does not have full supervisory responsibilities for a unit. Assigns and monitors the work of coworkers. May be involved in the recruitment process. May train or coach. A 4. Supervision. Supervises positions performing related work. Responsibilities may include recruitment, training, coaching, prioritizing work, allocating work, performance analysis, appraisals, recommendations, terminations, etc. Positions supervised generally perform related work. 5 is a general management role with supervision over a full department or several units within the same department. And a 6 is responsible for policy direction. Tracy?
I was 4.5 on this one. Again, check the box on all in number 4, but on number 5, there's no subordinate supervisors, but the position has supervision over the entire department and some of the other units, so it's treasury and collection and benefits administration, so.
Okay, can I just clarify one thing before we go any further?
If I'm reading it right.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
going up to the top of the job description. It says supervisors, the assistant treasurer collector, and other staff in the treasurer collector's office as necessary. I wasn't aware that there are other staff in that office.
There are from time to time, we have people, we'll have kids come from the colleges or universities, we have interns sometimes, and we also have project-related people who will come in and do different things. We haven't over the last year or 2, but we have in the
Okay,
past.
so there's maybe the one-offs we were referring to.
Those are one-offs,
Okay.
yep.
So there's a staff of one full-time person?
Staff of one full-time.
Okay. And then on occasion, they marshal the forces of other departments, but not on a regular basis?
So it's, the functions supervises treasury,
Yep,
collections, and benefits administration.
right,
They're all within the scope of that one position,
right,
but
okay.
in a lot of communities, cities and towns that are, some of them not even bigger than us, there would be more than one person doing that.
Okay.
Question, does the person that she supervised also have a hand in each one of those categories, or are they just under one category?
In the past, it's been different, but now we do, they're learning all of the tasks.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
We'd be interested in 4.5, would we?
I had that at 4.5, but this one throws me a little bit
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
There are one or two of them that I just,
Yeah, I had it as
Struggle
a
with.
straight 4.
okay,
I didn't see the .5 here,
okay.
but again, I'm willing to listen to others here. Thoughts?
4 is a 4.
Other thoughts, or?
I'd say 4.
So the 2 bullets under 5, and very definitely, the first one applies. Second one perhaps not. Would that not indicate 4 and change?
Supervision over a department or several units within the same department.
Several units.
This
In other words, the idea of
is this
having,
defined as department?
See, that's what I was struggling with, because I'm like, okay, what's units within the same department? Does that mean treasury, collection,
Collection.
HR, those functions or not?
I think the spirit of this one, to me, doesn't match up with these job description.
Right.
You know, and I think the spirit of the way this is written, supervising, you know, multiple departments or one large department,
Like
I had a hard
police,
time.
harbor master,
emergency
EMA.
management.
Okay.
I had a hard time
That are
getting it.
separate.
You're having trouble with the
That makes
word,
sense to me.
you're having trouble with the word general.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I don't disagree.
yeah.
I think it probably brings it to a 4.
Okay.
All right, let's vote. Lynn, I think you're up.
4?
4.
John?
4.
4.
4.
4 it is. Thank you. Supervision and scope. We've already described this as supervising 1 to 2 people. It's one person, and then on those rare occasions, there may be others when the interns or people
Those are the ones.
pulled in. So it's really a one-person or 2-person department that
Yes.
this individual is supervising the other, right?
Yes.
Which would make it a 1.
One.
Any disagreement there?
No.
Let's vote on it officially. Tony?
1.
1.
1.
1 it is. Thank you. Physical demands. And I think we can move through these last 2 pretty quickly. I mean, this is the, I don't wanna make it too simplistic here, but this is a fairly traditional office role where there is occasional lifting of a box or materials, but well, I mean, we're really focusing on the computer component as we always do.
This is me today, this week.
You know, physical
I'm a
activity.
4 this week on this one.
So I mean, there is a tremendous amount of work done here on the computer, obviously, which can lead to fatigue, as we all know. 1 is no undue fatigue at all, visual concentration on a screen less than 20% of the time. A 2 may require, you know, infrequent bursts of physical activity and also visual concentration 20 to 50% of the time looking at a monitor, sitting or standing at the workstation in one position. Again, 20 to 50% of the time. A 3, moderate fatigue. Either. And again, as we always talk about, you know, you don't have to hit every one of these bullets. You know, if 2 out of the 4 or 3 out of the 4 sound reasonable, then that's what we would look at. Frequently moving about with heavy physical effort, activities causing moderate physical exertion, visual concentration is greater than 50% of the time on a monitor, and may require extended periods of time sitting or standing. A 4, frequent fatigue, either physical effort or repetitive strenuous fatigue in terms of, again, looking at the screen more than probably 75% of the time, I would say. A 5 is repetitive strenuous fatigue, and I don't think we have to get beyond that. Tracy, where did you have this?
2.
A 2. That's looking at the screen 20 to 50% of the time?
Probably.
Okay, I would have thought it was a little bit more than that. 20 to 50%, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had it as 2.
I'm thinking of 2.5, sitting or standing at the workstation in one position with minimum amount of movement for 20 to 50% of the time seems a little bit light. You know, I would think extended periods of time sitting or standing, which are in number 3.
Yep. The
But-
position has always been rated as a 3, by the way, in this category.
Frequent moving about, under 3, frequent moving about and some heavy physical effort. You know, I don't think that that applies. Involves activities that cause moderate physical exertion or fatigue. Visual concentration greater than 50% of the time. This is heavy computer use. And requires extended periods of time sitting or standing. So aside from the first bullet in number 3, I think 3 applies, but, you know, because of the first bullet, I would scale it back maybe to a 2.5.
I agree with Lynn, it makes sense. Where does did you land, Tracy? What is your thought?
I was lower, I was at 2, but 2.5 makes sense. I think I was putting too much weight on the fact that a bullet didn't apply.
What do you think, Counselor?
I could go with the 2.5.
Well, just to give you some perspective, the assistant treasurer collector position, which has just recently been rated, if I'm not mistaken, that's a new position, no?
It is, it's just recently been raised.
We rated that a 3.
What did we rate
We
it?
rated this a 3 in terms of physical
Yeah, but
development.
haven't we rated like maybe 80% of these positions as a 3 because it's been,
You know, if I may, Mark,
Please.
I can see that because the assistant is doing a lot of the data entry.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas Diane's position, she's more interacting with department managers and meetings and those types of things.
cerebral.
She's feeling fatigued in front of the computer, can get up and move and go have a car, and, yeah.
Yeah, the assistant has tedium for digest all day long.
Point well taken, yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, so I guess I was mistaken. I thought Diane was spending more time in front of the screen than perhaps she is. And that's why I had it rated as a 3.
Well, in this, it says heavy computer use, so, part of the discussion.
Yeah.
So 20 to 50% versus greater than 50%.
Right.
Yeah, for my job, which is, I think, similar, maybe in between,
Yeah, okay.
2.5.
I can do the 2.5.
All right, let's kick off the vote. Tony, I believe it's you.
2.5.
2.5.
I have it as a 3.
I had it as a 2, I can go up to 2, I can support a 2.5.
2.5.
2.5 it is. Thank you.
I was very low on that one,
And the last factor
because of this one.
is working conditions.
I'm pretty exhausted.
Evaluates the degree to which disagreeable aspects of the job environment on the point of view of employee safety and comfort. The degree of severity of the workplace hazard is considered. Number 1 is generally agreeable, very few disadvantages, standard office environment. 2 is generally agreeable, some disadvantages, environment may be noisier or dirtier than normal, bothersome odors, potential accidents and illnesses are limited to minor injuries. I don't think we need to get beyond there, do we?
No.
Okay.
I don't think you needed to go beyond 1.
I was gonna say,
Leave the noxious odors behind.
Unless it's an executive washer.
No heavy cologne and perfume at work, please.
I see that it has been rated as a 1.
it has been rated as a 1. Tracy?
1.
1.
1.
Let's take an official vote.
Okay?
John?
Wasn't that?
1.
Mark, 1.
1. 1.
1.
Thank you. Okay, finally,
Yeah, it's good.
is there anything,
Robert's
as we
rules.
think about these last couple, 3 pages here and the factor, we've already talked about, as we always do, the need to look at the likelihood that should this position become vacated, that there is a readily available candidate pool, considering education, considering technical, or in this case, financial expertise, and all the other factors we've considered. We look at that. We've already talked about a tremendous amount of confidentiality in this job. We talked about the breadth of responsibilities. So when you put all those ingredients into a pot, do we look at this as a 1, a 2, or a 3? And before the rest of the answer to that, let's go to Tracy in terms of what's the likelihood that you're going to find, 4, 5, 6 candidates if this position is vacated?
So for the treasury function, a lot of times people will cross over from the financial world to the municipal world. And for some of the positions, it lends itself well. For the treasurer's position, you could have a treasurer from any corporation move into this role and no problem. So it would be relatively easy to find people with those skills. A tax collector, again, now you're dealing with Massachusetts general laws, so there's more of a learning curve to jump into that role. People understand how to collect receivable balances, so someone that might have been a bookkeeper or have those skills could do it, but there's, the general law component, most people aren't gonna know that unless they've worked in a municipal setting in the past. So there is a little bit, I would say, given adding up this ranking, it comes to an 18, so I would say 18.1 because of the difficulty in finding the right person or having those right skills.
That would be a 3, wouldn't it?
Which one is the highest?
3.
Oh, 3.
Yeah, it goes white, 1, easiest,
Yeah.
easiest, 2, 3, so it'd be a 3 in your mind.
No, I would say, so 1 is so
One would be
it's
easiest.
18
Yeah.
if it's easy, right? And then 18.1 if it's more difficult, then.
No, it's a straight 8, if it goes
Oh,
as a straight 18, then you look at the other factors, which is, if this is an extremely hard job to recruit for, it would be an 18.3.
Oh, okay.
If it was an easy, if it was a role where, you had oodles of candidates available to you, it would be an 18.1, correct? That's the way I've
I
always.
believe, yeah, that's
Yeah.
how
Okay.
I was thinking it was gonna be a .2.
So then I would say 2.
Yeah.
Because one piece of it would be easy, the other piece of it would be more difficult.
Is this an 18?
That's, I added it up to 405.
Yeah, I'm just doing the math now.
I'm sorry. So you're giving points, you're doing the 5 times 15%?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna leave that math up to you. So that I could pull it up on my computer, but on my phone.
Well,
but
I
you
can
guys
tell you
already
one
do
thing,
it.
you're not gonna rely on my math skills.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Okay, you don't get the job.
Do it again to be sure.
$410?
I came to 405.
405, I had 410, okay. I'm sure you're right. Is anybody else doing the math here?
I'm not,
No?
I'm not familiar. What time it does,
Again,
please.
so.
I need a better calculator for this.
So this is where we're reconciling the points, right?
Yes.
We're right here. 410 goes to 18.1, right?
It's this one.
Is that the only place where we see the total points?
Yes.
Okay.
Consequence of error is 4.5.
See, I want to clarify, what's the .1, .2, or what
Yeah.
document clarified that is what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Oh,
I just don't have my readers on, so even if I just.
So 405?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, these are 2.5, so I don't
So 4.5
know if
brings
those
it
are
in
too
as a-
strong for you. What do you think?
Yeah.
Hold on, let me see, I think I can see.
So that would be 18, right?
Yeah, I don't see it in the classification schedules.
Yeah, 405 brings it in as an 18.
It's an 18.
Okay, so it's an 18 and
It's an
then,
18, and then we're questioning whether it's a 1, 2, or a 3.
where's the definition of that? Somewhere in the policies or something?
But my thought
It's
is
in the
either
back
way, it
2
would
or
be a
3
2 if we're
pages
saying it's
under,
in the middle. Right, either way.
Okay, got it. I agree.
Point factor plan, other considerations?
Yeah, other
Is that a policy,
considerations.
Tracy?
I'm sorry?
Is it a policy?
It's,
it's
It's
a
in
practice
the-
more than a policy. It's
Okay.
market recruitment, long service, other pay problems.
Yeah,
No, that's not
you
it.
don't have the form?
well,
The one that shows the points, what the points mean, I don't think. I
like
have.
1.1, 0.2, 0.3.
We don't have any paperwork on that. It's just, what we look at is other considerations, and then we just kind of cobble together our thoughts as to whether those other considerations should be, because it's kind of like Jell-O. I mean,
I was just looking for something that said, we were confused as to was the .1 the highest or was the .3 the highest is all that I was.
Well, and I think that we're being so technical on this whole point evaluation and
Yeah.
points and things, that I would like, it seems like Tracy is getting us the paperwork that defines
Perhaps, yeah.
.1, .2, .3. I'd like to see that instead of just my assumptions.
Yeah, you know what, I don't know where that is.
No, she took something out
Yeah,
of her
she took
binder.
it. And is making copies, I think.
I mean, I've got the sheet here that talks about every position in town and whether it's graded a 20.1, 20.2,
I have these
20.3, but
things. Yeah, I have
there's no
those.
rationale for that.
Yeah, I
If that's what you're
don't see what the
looking for.
rationale.
What's the method there? When you take it, you take this total,
Yeah,
then,
you come up with a number, it has 405,
okay.
and then you look and see where 405 sits in the grid.
This total
So
first.
that's,
Yeah,
I don't
That
do
brings you to
anything, that's why I
405.
said 18.1.
that number's
Yeah.
405.
Thank you.
405, you come over here and you see which positions are rated in the.
Well, but still, it's not,
Doesn't say.
yeah, it's not on here, Tracy.
How you.
That's
These are just the
Yeah.
factors of what we should
That's-
consider when deciding 1, 2, or
Yeah.
3.
Forget about the percentages,
What we
5
don't have
times
is one
15
high
is
and or
75.
3 high.
5 times 15
And
is
not, that are
75.
not valid indicators of the level of, and which should be, which should not
And
be rated.
I've never seen that weight chart before.
This is what Diane always uses at the end of every
Because we've
conversation.
never been given rise to use those.
Yeah, I got it only because I knew Diane wasn't gonna be here today.
Is there any way we can get hold of that so we know that?
Oh, yeah, I'll have Diane, yeah, okay, cover for everybody.
All right.
So that might be something in the future for us to have
On
with
the top
this
of this.
kind of, toolkit,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
We're
that,
gonna quantify that a little bit
Yeah.
better,
Yeah.
what constitutes a 1 versus a 2 versus a 3?
yes.
Yeah, or even if simply 1 is no, no to minimal, 2 is medium, and 3 is high, even just to clarify which one's low, medium,
Yeah,
and
it
high.
would be,
I think
it would be good if we had
Okay.
something to.
Yeah, we'll work with that.
kind of Work
Yeah.
on.
But either way, for the sake of this, I think we're in the middle, whether 1 is high or 3 is high, so I think if a point 2 is,
I'm quite sure that historically 3 has been the highest of the.
Yeah.
Okay.
that would make sense.
So for the purposes of today's conversation, did we fall on a 2? Given the challenge of identifying candidates who've got all of these.
I would say a 1 or a 2.
I would say a 2.
I felt like it was a 2.
A 2.
Okay, I'm still a little bit unclear on it, so I'll kind of,
We can hold on it.
No, I don't
If you're
wanna hold on
uncomfortable,
it.
we can hold on it for now and get more clarity and.
Is it helpful to see what positions fall?
well, yeah, I was looking at the positions, and they are, like identified as within the grade, .1, .2, so.
Yeah, so 18, there are 3 18.1s. The conservation agent, the library director,
Yeah,
and the director of the COA.
yeah,
There are 2 18.2s. The assistant town administrator and the director of animal and natural resources.
yeah,
There is 1 18.3, the accountant assistant finance director.
Yeah, so I would say 18.1.
Point 1?
Yeah.
okay. 18.1,
And that's based on your perception of the
Just
relative
based on what
challenges
you-
to
yeah.
find people. Okay. 18.1. I'm going to live with that. That would be consistent with the conservation agent, the library director, and the director of the COA in terms of the candidate pool.
yes, thank you.
How do people feel about that?
I would go for a point
Then
1.
does that help you at all?
Sure. So looking at the classification schedule, it's pretty interesting. So it was a 17.2, and moving it up to an 18.1, there's no change in salary.
In grade, the classification grade, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's kind of interesting. So, that kind of gives me a little bit of pause. So if we went to an 18.2, it would bump up the salary range, which Tracy, listening to you and how this position has evolved,
Yeah,
Yep,
I think that that makes sense to me.
yeah.
I would not disagree, that's, I had it as 18.2.
Okay.
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree with you. Good catch, Brenda.
I thought you had it as an 18.1. I wrote down
She was
.1.
thinking,
I did, I
Okay.
had it at 18.1, but
Okay,
based on what you just said,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, I can support an 18.2.
And what percentage does that bump the salary opportunity?
It's $5 more an hour, $5.40 more an hour,
range.
the midpoint. Do you want me to say what the midpoints are? It's a 34.24 for the current range, and then the midpoint of an 18.2 is 39.65. So like $5.41 more. But again, just reflecting back on what Tracy said, and I think just in general, the duties of tax collection and HR over the last, 12 years since it was evaluated last, I think that it's, those roles have changed significantly. I know HR has.
I agree, and I just think that the degree of complexity of the challenges associated with filling this role, given the additional responsibilities, the unusual nature of the two parts of the job, and the requirements involved, just seems to me to be challenging enough that would in and of itself bump it to a 2.
Yes.
We've never been overly concerned with where it lands in terms of compensation, because that's really not our function here. The function is to be consistent, across the enterprise in terms of how positions are rated. And I think that
So the two positions on this sheet for 18.2 is a library director and a principal assessor.
right,
And then on this one, is there an 18.2? There's no 18.2 on this sheet. So does that make sense to put it
Yes.
in with the,
we always try to look at comps.
wait a
Yeah.
second, no, it's not. The library director is an 18.1. 18.2 is principal assessor and the director of inspection services, facilities maintenance.
I'm not sure if
Yeah.
you're looking at the current, does it have a fiscal year?
No, it does not.
Classification rates?
This is, the one I've got is updated February 29th of this year.
What are you
Mine
looking
is
at? Are you
23.
looking at these or something else?
I'm looking at this.
February 29th.
Mine and yours are 23 on this.
Yep.
So see, I'm looking
The
at.
18.2s
Unless I printed something.
are the
You're
assistant
supposed to
town
bring those to
administrator, director of animal and natural resources.
Classification rates.
We have the principal assessor as a 19.3, so.
This issue, people on holiday.
Updated. Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, people must be like, wow, you're sweating.
We need to close out here.
Okay.
Folks comfortable with an 18.2?
I am.
Well,
Yes,
just let's give it one more quick glance. So it is up there with the principal assessor and the director of inspection services, facilities maintenance. How
No,
many facilities
The
do we?
principal assessor, what's the date you have on yours?
This doesn't have a date.
Oh, well, I've got, this
Let me
is,
see, 18.2, let's see. There's nobody in that one classification. There's nobody in 18.2 on the one that I have from 2023.
well, I've
This
got-
one, this
Right.
sheet.
Yeah, this is the most updated one from February 29th of this year. And the principal assessor is now at 19.3.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
gonna make sure you all have the 2025 classification rates, because we've done that now.
Yeah,
Okay.
this, I'm looking at
Yeah.
20.
What about
This is
the
22.
director of inspection services,
That's
facilities
22.
maintenance? Where's that?
Yes.
Director of Inspectional Services is a
Oh, is it
19.2.
19.2?
Updated.
Can, whoever has the updated sheet, can you
That's
tell us
2020.
who's on 18.1 and who's on 18.2?
Yeah, that's the one I originally gave you. 18.1 is the conservation agent, the library director, and the director of the COA. 18.2 are the assistant town administrator and the director of animal and natural resources.
It's a .2.
That's what I thought.
Okay, all right. Yeah, if we could get updated, that would be great.
Yep.
Okay, we okay on 18.2 now?
Yes.
Official vote, 18.2.
18.2.
That's it, 18.2.
Okay, I wish I had an update on this. Take a look at this. I'm looking at this calendar. Look at this right here. Just focus on that.
Yeah.
All right, and this new position, well above this paper.
You asked me whether I'm,
In other words, we're moving from here all the way to here.
yeah.
Okay.
Do we need to pause and revisit this once we have updated sheets? What's the urgency with this, Tracy?
There's no urgency. I
Okay.
think you're there. I mean, I don't know if you want to.
If folks aren't comfortable with the 18.1 versus 2 right now, let's suspend the conversation. We're meeting next week. I'll put it on the agenda. We'll make sure we're all on the same page in terms of paperwork there, and we can vote on it then.
Well, it seems like John might have had additional questions. I was kind of,
Well, I'm just looking at specific positions that would almost appear to be equal, and the grade range drops all the way to 17.2.
would this be an okay agenda item, or would we have to like convene out for a special conversation and then come back in?
No, you could have it as.
Yeah, I think that.
Even with Diane
As
here?
long as it's posted as
We
part
would
of the
just
agenda.
excuse Diane for that part
Yeah, sure.
and then bring her back in for the general
That's
meeting?
fine.
Okay.
Let's do that, because we're unsure here. We're gonna leave it as an 18
Is it,
to be determined whether it's a 1 or a 2 based upon everybody having the same paperwork in front of them.
Yep.
When
Okay.
we meet on next Monday.
Okay, and can we maybe get that information beforehand?
Yep.
In an email so we can print it out and have it
Yep.
ready?
Thank you.
and the
Okay, I
update-
have one more
update-
question.
possible to get the updated sheets on both of these?
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
Okay.
Is it fair to me to ask what's Diane's category? What is she numbered at? Where is she on the list?
Right now,
Yes,
she is a 17.2.
that's what I just circled.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, that's what
Treasurer collector.
we're talking about, moving it to an 18.2 or an 18.1.
Well, then I would vote for the 18.2.
Right.
But that's where our discussion
That's,
ended.
yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold the discussion.
okay.
I have another
John,
question.
I did my-
Oh, I'm sorry, that's, I was
This
giving
is a
you,
general question,
giving your
this
stuff
is
away.
not a
I know.
public point. Whatever we land on, it looks like it's going to be a higher salary range than where we are currently. So just in general, would that mean then that because it came out of this committee, this board, would we look at adjusting the incumbent's pay?
That's all subject to appropriation and availability of funds. So 9 times out of 10, when you do this exercise, it doesn't necessarily lead to an increase in pay. It just, generally we do it when people leave and someone new comes in, but absolutely I go through this and, as I formulate budget information.
Either this year or
If
next.
there's availability of funds, I would,
When's
take
our
actions.
budget year start?
July 1.
Okay,
But it was voted in April by town meeting,
okay.
so.
And that's why I say we typically try to refrain from having a compensation, I understand it's.
It was a
it's
general
relevant,
question,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right, but it's something that.
Yeah, it
typically is not-
doesn't
It's not the
always-
purview of this group.
Right.
This board's actions don't always translate to raises, yeah.
Right.
Yep,
Yeah.
okay, good.
With that, any further discussion? If not, I'll call for an adjournment. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.